Who do you think you are? Brittany Sanders' voice cut through the February sea breeze like ice. On the boardwalk just outside the town fair, the crowd of students from Pacific Bluffs High fell silent. Only the sound of waves and the pounding hearts of those nearby remained. Alex Ramirez, her hair tied back and face still speckled with sand, stood across from Brit, the reigning queen of the surf team, someone no one dared to cross. She exhaled lightly, eyes locked on her opponent. "No one," Alex said. "I just don't like being threatened," Brit scoffed. "There's no place here for people who don't know their role." "Is that so?" Alex lifted her surfboard gently from the sand. "Guess you'll have to teach me then." A ripple of gasps echoed from the crowd. But what none of them knew was that the new girl from Detroit used to be a national champion in figure skating, her legs trained to carve perfect arcs on ice or on water. And this showdown was just the result of weeks where Alex had tried her best to stay silent and live unnoticed. 3 weeks earlier, Monday, Pacific Bluffs, California. 16-year-old Alex sat in the passenger seat beside her father Hans, gripping her backpack straps. Morning sunlight streamed through the fogged-up window, making the road to school look like a slow-motion film. "It's just a fresh start," her dad said for the third time. Alex didn't answer. Pacific Bluffs was a small coastal town, the kind where everyone knew everyone and strangers were always scrutinized. She knew that well. She had learned to walk quietly, live neatly, and speak as little as possible. Every time she changed schools, she reminded herself, don't reveal your past. Don't let anyone know that once she performed in front of thousands until a fall shattered her leg and her childhood in one brutal snap while her mother cried into her hands in the ER. Pacific Bluffs High sat right along the shoreline, with white walls, an American flag flapping wildly, and students in flip-flops carrying surfboards like fashion accessories. She walked in like a misplaced note gray, hoodie, faded jeans, hair tied back, eyes slightly lowered. "Who's that girl? Where's she from? Looks kinda cold. Watch out for the 'I'm not like other girls' type.'" Alex heard every whisper, but she had trained her mind to turn them into the distant crashing of ocean waves. At the 11th grade bulletin board, her name was the last on the list. Ramirez. Alex transferred from Detroit. A teacher nodded at her as she entered the classroom. "Sit wherever you'd like." She chose a desk by the window, opened her book, and pretended to read, earbuds in volume low. But she heard every footstep approaching her desk. Light slow, calculated, a shadow blocked the sunlight. "Oh, Detroit." A girl's voice sweet as syrup, but sharp as a blade. Alex looked up. Her eyes met a smile that wasn't friendly. "Brittany Sanders." "You know," Brit said, hands on hips, "new people usually learn to blend in before they try to stand out." Alex stared straight into her eyes. No fear, no reaction. Just a reply, light as air. "Thanks for the advice." Brit paused, not because of the words, but because of the stare. A stare that was cold, deep. Not the kind that said, "I'm scared." The kind that said, "I'm choosing not to destroy you." Pacific Bluffs High had never seen anyone like Alex Ramirez, but they were about to. First lunch at Pacific Bluffs High. The cafeteria opened onto two sides of the courtyard, with sunlight streaming through palm leaves and bouncing off shiny aluminum tables. The air smelled of sea salt, mixed with the beat of pop music from the outdoor speakers. From a distance, it could have passed for a perfect student beach retreat. Alex sat alone, in the farthest corner, back against a wooden post, her lunch tray barely touched. Earbuds still in, but the music had stopped. She only wanted to observe in peace. Groups clustered around the surf team, football players, the artsy kids. Everything had an order, a position, a territory. And at the center of it all, Brittany Sanders Brit. Blonde waves, white tennis skirt, school polo, tied just high enough to show off toned abs. Strawberry smoothie in hand, she laughed with Chad, the football captain, and Tiffany, her longtime best friend, who never stayed more than 3 steps away. Alex hadn't tried to draw attention, but her indifference did exactly that. "See the new girl?" Tiffany nodded. "That hoodie, who wears that on a California beach Detroit vibe? Dark and frozen." Chad laughed, adding, "She probably thinks it snows here." Brit said nothing. She turned around and caught Alex's gaze, staring right at her and not avoiding, not inviting. Just a look. Still. Unspoken. Completely off-code. Because at Pacific Bluffs High, if you didn't bow to Brit, you were challenging her. Brit stood up and strolled across the lunch tables like a queen, heading to punish a rebel. Detroit. Alex looked up, pulled out her earbuds. "Sorry, you're from Detroit, right? Doesn't really fit the vibe around here." Brit's voice was soft like waves, but everyone could hear the riptide underneath. Alex set down her fork. "I'm just having lunch, not trying to fit anyone's vibe." A few students nearby stopped eating. The air thinned. Brit raised an eyebrow. "Wow, spiky." Tiffany smirked, mimicking her "careful, or we'll freeze you out hometown style." Chad slapped the table, laughing hard. But Alex didn't laugh. She just said slowly, "People around here sure care a lot about hoodies." "Oh no," Brit replied, her lips curling. "We just like handling people who forget where they are." Alex stood up, not tall, just shoulder to shoulder with Brit, but her eyes were colder than any wave. "I know exactly where I am," she said it softly. "The real question is, do you know who I am?" Tiffany burst out laughing. What some failed. Detroit diva. Alex didn't answer. She stepped past the lunch bench, walking right through Brit, as if no one was in her way. The whole courtyard held its breath. Brit stayed still, gripping her smoothie tightly. A flicker of doubt crossed her eyes. Not fear, irritation, because why wasn't that girl afraid of her? And then, like a grain of sand caught in your eye, that indifference made Brit act. "We'll see how good she really is." Brit muttered, eyes locked on Alex's retreating back. Tiffany glanced at Chad. "Boardwalk this afternoon, a little fun?" Chad nodded. Brit twirled her hair, her eyes gleaming with a very clear plan. This afternoon, Brit would try to bring the girl from Detroit down from the height of her mystery. But what Brit didn't know was that she was walking straight into a storm she wasn't ready for. Pacific Bluffs, 4:15 p.m. The boardwalk was as lively as ever. Food stalls, live music, the scent of vanilla ice cream, and seafood blending in the breeze. Waves lapped against the edge of the wooden planks. Kids on skateboards zipped by like swallows. Alex stood alone by a lamppost, hands in her hoodie pockets, eyes on the banner. "Welcome to the Pacific Summer Festival." She wasn't interested in any of it, but her dad had said he'd be late picking her up. What she didn't expect was to be dragged into a public stage. "Hey, Detroit," a voice called behind her. She turned. Brit, Tiffany, Chad, and nearly a dozen students were gathered around a makeshift balance ramp built for the festival. A crooked hand-drawn sign read "Boardwalk Balance Challenge." "Winner gets free soda. Heard it's icy in Detroit. Must be good at balancing, huh?" Tiffany laughed, shrill and sharp. "Wanna try?" Brit stepped forward, holding a skateboard. Alex looked at the board, basic type wheels worn down. The challenge was simple: step onto the board, placed over a steel pipe, and balance as long as possible. She didn't want attention. She didn't want anyone to see the foot that had once been in a cast for nearly 8 months. But Chad's eyes flicked to her left ankle. Then he smirked. "What's wrong?" afraid of falling. That line hit a nerve. Alex slowly removed her backpack, placing it on the ground. "I'll try," a few students murmured in surprise. Tiffany chuckled under her breath. "Here comes the drama." Alex stepped onto the board. They expected wobbling, flailing, but she didn't move, didn't shake. She stood still, body upright, head slightly tilted, like she was listening to something. Her eyes closed. Brit frowned. 1 second, 2, 5, 10, 20. The murmuring grew. A few students pulled out their phones. Tiffany tried to scoff. So is she just going to stand there forever? And then, as if on cue, Alex began to sway gently with the rhythm of the waves. Her body wasn't rigid. Her feet shifted by millimeters. Her stance wasn't polished like a pro athlete's, but there was something wild and free in it, like a dancer, playing with gravity. A gust of ocean wind rolled in. The board tilted. Alex responded instinctively, sliding her left foot half a step, lowering her center of gravity, rebalancing like it was the most natural thing in the world. Brit clenched her fists. Chad's smirk twitched. Tiffany tried to say something else, but no one was listening. All eyes were on Alex. After exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds, she gently stepped down, returned the board, said nothing. 1 minute 30, who can beat that? Someone shouted. Scattered applause broke out, not loud, but real and unprompted. Alex bent down to pick up her backpack. Before leaving, she glanced at Brit. Not a challenge, not gratitude, just a quiet message: I didn't come here to lose. Brit didn't move. The soda in her hand suddenly tasted flat. For the first time in years, someone had walked into her territory without any declaration, yet made everyone turn and watch. Wednesday, PE class. The California sun blazed down relentlessly on the field of Pacific Bluffs High. Students jogged around in loose clusters, as usual, a routine warm-up drill for attendance and maintaining fitness. Alex hated group running. She always kept to the middle, not leading, not lagging. No music in her ears, but her mind played through melodies just like she used to do, to keep rhythm while training on the ice. Brittany Sanders was running ahead, 3 students away. Tiffany stayed close by her side, glancing back at Alex after every lap. Chad wasn't there, probably off getting football privileges, but that didn't make Alex any less alert. And then it happened, just like she expected, only sooner than she thought. Lap 4. She had just entered the curve. Tiffany, running ahead, suddenly bent down to tie her laces right in the middle of the lane. Alex instinctively veered to avoid her, but a foot shot out from the right, hooking her ankle. The fall wasn't minor. Her left hand slammed against the track, her knee scraped hard, sweat mixed with dirt and sand burning on contact. Snickers broke out behind her. "Oh, so sorry," Tiffany gasped, fake shock in her voice. "Didn't see you there." A few students jogged past, glanced, and kept going. No one stopped. Even the PE teacher, a middle-aged man glued to his stopwatch, glanced her way, then looked away. Alex pushed herself up, dirt streaking her hoodie's side. A small tear opened in the sleeve. Her eyes weren't red. They didn't water. But something in her expression, pulled inward, shut down. Tiffany returned to Brit, whispering with a laugh. That was barely a tap, and she went flying. Brit glanced at Alex, who was still getting up slowly, then turned away like nothing had happened. In the nurse's office, a gentle woman dabbed antiseptic on Alex's wounds. "Just scrapes, nothing broken, but it'll bruise for sure." Alex only nodded. "What did you trip on?" Alex hesitated. She could have said it, could have described every detail, but who would believe her? "I tripped on my own shadow." The nurse chuckled. "Your own shadow. Better train harder then. Alex gave a faint smile, thin as thread, holding back the boil of anger rising beneath her skin. That afternoon back home, she didn't tell her dad what had happened. He was out grilling on the patio, face lit up with weekend plans to explore the town together. She didn't want to dim that light. In her room, Alex stared at her bruised foot and stinging palms. But the worst pain wasn't physical. It was that old ache, the feeling of being forced off the ice after a fall she hadn't deserved. Once again, someone had tried to extinguish her with a cheap trick. She looked into the mirror. The reflection wasn't weak. Only one quiet promise remained. If this is how they play, then I'll play a different way. No fists, no shouting, just the one thing: they can't stop my mind and my silence. Friday, cloudy skies, but no rain. Alex sat by the edge of the school's back basketball court, leaning against the wall, legs drawn up, an old sketchbook in her hands. A thin bandage still wrapped her left hand, the aftermath of Wednesday's accidental fall. She wasn't drawing, just holding a pencil, tapping it against a blank spot that refused to become anything. From across the court, a camera shutter clicked soft as a breath. Click. She didn't look up, but this time, she knew someone was watching. A moment later, the figure approached. "Sorry, I wasn't trying to photograph you, it's just..." The light in that moment, "You looked really strong." A boy's voice. Calm, not pushy. Alex looked up. A boy with light brown hair, flannel over a hoodie, and an old film camera hanging from his neck. He wore glasses, eyes slightly averted. "You, Liam. What class are you in, 11B? I sit by the window row." He gave a faint smile. "I know who you are." "Alex, right." She nodded. A few seconds of silence passed. "That day, during PE, I saw what happened." Alex's fingers tightened around the pencil. "Saw what Tiffany tripped you?" "Oh," and Brit just stood there watching, saying nothing. She said nothing. She didn't deny it. Liam sat down beside her at a comfortable distance, not intruding, not pretending. "Are you going to do anything?" "No." "Why not?" "Because they don't use weapons," Alex replied. "They use the environment, and this environment doesn't stand with people who tell the truth." Liam paused, then nodded slowly. "I hate people like that," he muttered, spinning the lens cap on his camera. "Always trying to knock others down to keep their spot." "What about you?" Alex tilted her head. "Where do you stand?" Liam hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Behind the lens, where no one notices, but I always see." A cold gust swept across the court. Alex pulled her hoodie tighter. Liam reached into his backpack and pulled out a small Gel ice pack, the sports kind. He seemed like someone who always carried it. "For you." Alex looked at the pack, then at him. "I don't need pity. It's not pity. I just think if someone saw you fall and didn't do anything, the least they can do is something afterward." She accepted the ice pack, nodded. "Thanks." After school that day, Alex walked down to the beach behind the school. The waves were gentle. Her skateboard was still tucked in her backpack like an extension of herself. Her hand still hurt, but inside, something warmed. Not because of the ice pack, but because for the first time since coming to Pacific Bluffs, someone didn't look through her, didn't sneer, didn't pry. They simply saw her. Monday morning, in front of the 11th grade lockers. The crowd was unusually thick. A wave of murmurs rippled down the hallway like dominoes. Brittany and Tiffany had just arrived when they stopped cold. On the metal door of their lockers, drawn in colored chalk straight onto the rough surface, was a small but striking piece of graffiti. Two cartoon-like figures sketched in minimalist style. One stood on a surfboard wearing a crown. The other stood before a massive wave barreling in from behind. The wave was half real, half abstract arching, curved, towering like a rooftop. In the lower right corner, a single word in white chalk, written in flowing calligraphic script, Karma. No one spoke first, but every eye turned to Brit and Tiffany. "What the hell is this?" Tiffany stammered. "Chalk," a nearby student whispered. "Not paint, but honestly, it's really well done." A sophomore girl snapped a photo. A senior boy chuckled. "Whoever did this is kind of a legend." More than that, someone else added. "It's a statement." Brit shouted, "Who did this? Who touched my locker?" No one answered, but the glances exchanged said plenty. Not everyone loved Brit, and now someone had drawn what the whole grade had been thinking, but no one dared say. A teacher passed by. "Just chalk, Brittany. You can wipe it off." Wipe it off. Brit stared at the word karma. Her eyes wouldn't leave it, like the letters were staring back at her. At the end of the hallway behind the half-open classroom door, Alex Ramirez sat sketching in pencil, not looking outside, earbuds in, pretending to know nothing. But Liam, watching from the opposite hallway corner, saw her. He noticed the faint smudge of colored chalk still clinging to the edge of her gray hoodie sleeve. And he said nothing, just smiled, a small, knowing smile. During the break, Brit dragged Tiffany into the restroom. "I know it was her. That Detroit girl. She's playing this mysterious tough act and thinks we're all scared. But no one saw her draw it," Tiffany whispered. "Then we'll make her show her real face." That night, Alex sat by her bedroom window. The streetlight cast just enough glow to draw by. On the paper was a new version of the graffiti. This time the wave had patterns like blood ripples, soft, elegant, and unstoppable. She pinned it to her wall, not to show off, but to remind herself, silence doesn't mean weakness. And art isn't just for beauty. It can be a warning. Tuesday, one day after the karma drawing. The lockers had been wiped clean. No trace of chalk remained. But everyone remembered the image, and the story spread faster than the coastal winds in storm season. During the break, the hallway was unusually crowded. Students gathered in small groups whispering, but their eyes all drifted toward one person, Brit. Tiffany tugged on Brit's sleeve after the second period. "They're laughing behind your back." "You think I don't know?" that Brit snapped. "People are starting to admire that cheap artwork." Cheap but clever, a voice chimed in from behind it, was Jules, a surfer girl with platinum-dyed brown hair and dark sunglasses. Jules wasn't Brit's friend, but she'd never been a direct rival either. Still today, she said, "No one's ever done something like that to you before, Brit. I don't support it, but I have to admit, it made an impression." "Excuse me," Brit turned. "You like it? I mean, you're losing control," Jules replied bluntly. Tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Tiffany looked around nervously. Brit gripped her backpack-strapped jaw tight. By lunch, the surf team held a private meeting. A few members looked concerned. "This whole thing's damaging our image." Someone uploaded a video of the drawing to TikTok. Nearly 20,000 views overnight. And the comments are all like, "Queen Karma is iconic." Someone suggested printing shirts that say, "Beware the wave." "We're the surf team," and they're saying, "We're about to get wiped out." Brit stood in the center, listening to every word. And for the first time in months, she felt like she wasn't steering the current anymore. Meanwhile, in the library, Alex sat alone in the farthest corner, reading. Liam approached and sat beside her. "You know, right? Know what?" Alex didn't look up from the page. "Everyone's talking about karma." "Oh, you did something no one else dared, made them look at themselves." Alex closed the book and looked up. "And you? Where do you stand in all this?" Liam hesitated. "I don't like direct conflict, but I believe in documenting the truth, so others can see it. She nodded. Good. Then keep documenting, but don't interfere. This is my wave. That afternoon, Brit sat alone in the surf team's locker room. Tiffany walked in to find her typing something on her phone. What's that application to revise our summer surf competition spokesperson lineup? You're not the rep anymore, Tiffany asked, shocked. I still am, Brit said calmly. I just need to reclaim the narrative. Someone's using the outsider angle to shine, and if I don't act, I'll get swallowed whole. Tiffany bit her lip. What are you going to do? Brit stared into the mirror. For the first time, her reflection didn't just show power, it showed uncertainty. We need to find out exactly who's behind karma, and next time, it won't be just chalk. That night, Alex passed by her father's office. The light was still on. He was halfway through a coding project, a cold coffee cup beside him. Not asleep yet, he asked when he saw her. No, just thinking about some things at school. You all right? Alex paused. I'm fine, but I think something's shifting, and no one really sees the wave until it hits the shore. He smiled. That's a good line. Alex nodded, but deep down, she knew this wasn't the highest wave yet. Thursday, late morning. Lunch break had been extended due to a faculty meeting. The schoolyard was nearly empty, except for a small group rehearsing on the lawn, the cheer squad, and the school media team prepping for a promotional video for Pacific Summer Wave, the statewide surfing competition hosted by Pacific Bluffs High. Liam hadn't been interested, but the photography teacher had asked him to document behind-the-scenes material. I just meant to catch some pretty light shots, he told Alex. But then, while adjusting focus from behind the fence of the football field, Liam accidentally zoomed in on something unusual. Brit and Tiffany stood beside a younger girl, likely a new recruit for the cheer squad. The girl was hunched over, clutching a sign, labeled Program Intro Practice. Her eyes were tense. Liam hesitated, but clicked the shutter anyway. Click. Just seconds later, Tiffany swatted the sign from the girl's hands, sending it into a nearby puddle. The girl panicked, scrambling to retrieve it, while Brit stood with arms crossed, lips mouthing something. No one else was around. But Liam's lens caught everything. That afternoon in the library, Liam brought his camera to Alex. I caught this, he said. Alex had been browsing books on stage lighting palettes, but turned to look. I don't know what to do, Liam said. It's evidence, but if I turn it in, I'll get pulled into drama for sure. Alex didn't respond right away. She took the camera and reviewed the shot. It didn't capture faces clearly, but body language, expressions, and motion told an unmistakable story. What do you think? Liam asked. Are you planning to submit it? Not sure. I hate drama. Alex paused, then handed the camera back. Then don't submit it, but don't hide it either. What do you mean don't put your name on it, but let the truth speak? Liam hesitated. You want to spread it? Alex shook her head. Not spread, just deliver it to the right place. No words, no captions, just the image. Let them see themselves. That night, a USB was quietly dropped into the faculty mailbox, no name attached. Inside a single photo file. The next morning, schoolyard. The rumor spread like waves crashing ashore. Someone sent in a photo exposing Brit and Tiffany for bullying a new team member. A printed version of the photo, black and white grainy, appeared taped behind the gym door. Handwritten beneath it, power doesn't come from shouting. It comes from where you think no one is watching. Tiffany tore it down in panic. Brit said nothing. She wasn't angry, she didn't deny it. She just looked around the hallway as if searching for someone. That afternoon, Brit sat alone on the bleachers beside the basketball court. No makeup, No small talk. She stared out at the empty court, like she was seeing, for the first time, the space she used to think she owned. Liam asked Alex, "You think they'll get in trouble?" Alex replied, "They don't need punishment. They just need to know they've been seen, and that they can't hide behind status anymore." Liam nodded. "I think, I get it now. Monday, dress rehearsal for the Summer Beach Festival." All juniors and seniors gathered at the Pacific Bluffs High Stadium, where a massive temporary stage had been built facing the shoreline. This was the event the whole town looked forward to, featuring the school band, surf team, cheer squad, and theatre arts group. Everyone was there except Brit. "Where is she?" the PE teacher asked, scanning the crowd. "No idea," Jules shrugged, holding the MC script. "No one's seen Brit since this morning. She's not answering messages, not listed for rehearsal either." The teacher frowned. "She's the official spokesperson. She can't just skip without notice." Jules smirked. "Well, Karma's the real spokesperson now, isn't she?" A few students chuckled quietly. Not everyone dared say Karma out loud, but the nickname had spread like salt water through the halls. In class, Tiffany sat alone, staring at her phone screen. Her message to Brit, sent 2 days ago, was still unread. "You call her yet?" Jules walked in. "I did." No answer. "Is she okay?" Tiffany clenched her fists. "You think Brit's ever okay? She hates being seen as weak. And I don't." Jules raised an eyebrow. Tiffany didn't answer. The next day, a new poster was pinned up. "Beach Festival spokesperson change, Jules Martin." No explanation followed. But the whole school understood. Brit was stepping down. Some cheered, some were confused. But the strangest part was how quiet the 11th grade suddenly became. No more high heels clacking through morning halls. No more familiar scoffing at lunch. The silence wasn't peace. It felt more like an ocean just after its apex predator had vanished. Liam noticed. Alex said nothing, but kept watching. That afternoon, they sat behind the school. Alex balanced her laptop on her lap, opening her music software. "Without Brit, this place feels weird," Liam said. "Weird good or weird bad?" Alex asked. "Both," he replied. "Like, it's easier to breathe, but also kind of empty." Alex nodded slightly. "Not everyone should disappear, but sometimes someone has to step away for change to have a chance." That night, in another corner of town, a seaside cafe, Brit sat alone, cap low, face bare. In front of her, a notebook. In her hand, a marker. She was writing something, but her handwriting trembled. Someone approached, recognized her, and tried to speak, but Brit shook her head. The person left quietly. Brit no longer wanted to be the center, not because she'd changed, but because she wasn't sure she still controlled what that center even meant. Wednesday, 8:15 a.m. Alex walked into class with her hoodie pulled low like every other day. But today, something in the air felt different. Some eyes flicked toward her, then away. Others lingered longer, whispering behind cupped hands. There were no laughs, but the indifference was gone too. It was attention, and Alex wasn't used to that. First period, she was called to the faculty office. Waiting for her was Ms. Addison, head of the arts program and the lead coordinator of the festival. "Alex, we know you were the one who drew that graffiti." Alex's heart skipped. Her hands remained steady on the chair. "I didn't." "Don't worry, you're not in trouble. In fact," Ms. Addison smiled and slid a folder toward her. "The administration would like to invite you to design the visuals for the main stage. You'll be replacing Brit." Alex's eyes widened. "Why me?" "Because you made the entire school stop and look, not with words, but with feeling." Ms. Addison's voice was calm, but firm. "To be honest, you created a response we didn't anticipate, and this year's festival, for the first time, needs a voice from someone who's never held the mic. That afternoon, in the library, "You're going to say yes, right?" Liam asked, part curious, part concerned. Alex still hadn't spoken. On the table lay an old sketch she'd once drawn for fun, a stage concept now staring back like a stranger. "I'm not sure," she whispered. "What are you afraid of?" "I'm afraid of becoming the thing I stayed quiet to stand against. Afraid of becoming the center and being torn down like Brit." Liam nodded slowly. "But you're not Brit. And others, will they see that they do? At least, now they do." That evening, Alex got home. Her dad was watching TV. Her mum was busy in the kitchen. She stood in the hallway, holding the unopened folder. She didn't plan to say anything. But then her mom turned, saw her, and asked, "Anything new at school today?" Alex hesitated. "They want me to design the stage visuals for the festival." Her mom paused. Something shifted in her gaze, subtle but deep. "Will you do it? I don't know. I'm not used to being seen." Her mother stepped closer, resting a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "You're not being seen. You're being recognized. There's a difference." Alex looked at her, and for the first time in months, something loosened inside her chest. Late that night, Alex opened her laptop. She clicked into her sketchbook folder. A new file was created, stage concept, Alex V1 PSD. She wasn't sure she was ready, but she had started. Friday, 1 week before the festival. In the school library, Alex sat alone, focused on her digital stage design. Headphones on, eyes fixed on the screen. She was experimenting with a cold color palette, deep blue waves transitioning into silver LED lighting. Suddenly, a shadow appeared beside her desk. Alex pulled off her headphones. It was Sasha, a sophomore, with warm brown skin glasses and a habit of sitting in the last row during math class. "You're Alex, right, yeah?" Sasha smiled and placed a notebook on the table. "I sketched a beach backdrop, but I didn't have the courage to submit it. I heard you're designing the festival visuals, so..." Alex flipped through the pages. Strong, confident pencil strokes depicted the Pacific Bluffs shoreline at high tide, almost alive. "You've got talent." Sasha blushed. "Thanks. If you need help, I could do background layouts." Alex looked up. "Sure, thank you." Out on the school field, Liam was testing a camera rig. Holding the boom mic was Devon, a former sound team member who had quit after Brit dismissed his ideas. "We're shooting a short intro for the event," Devon said. "If you need an original score, I can mix something." Liam nodded, surprised, but clearly excited. "So, we have a crew now?" "Not really a crew," Devon smirked. "More like people who are done sitting quiet." Monday. A single A4 sheet was pinned to the main bulletin board after lunch. "Silence doesn't mean we don't see. And if you've ever felt ignored, come to the third-floor library, back left corner. We're rebuilding the stage for everyone. No name, no logo, but the whole school knew who it was." That afternoon, the third-floor seminar room was packed. Even Jules, who had taken over Brit's role, showed up. She didn't say much, but when Alex walked in, Jules simply nodded. "I'm not here to supervise," Jules said softly. "I'm here because, for the first time, this festival might actually mean something." Alex glanced around the room. Devon was plugging in audio cables. Sasha is blending colors. Liam was fiddling with his camera lens. A freshman boy is sketching a logo on a digital tablet. She hadn't called anyone, but they came. None of them stood out. There was no leader, but somehow they were building something steady, quiet, and hauntingly beautiful. Late that night, at Brit's house, she stood by her window, drawing the curtain aside, staring out at the ocean. In the distance, the festival stage glowed in its rehearsal lights. But she wasn't the one running it. On her phone screen, an unsent message lingered. I used to think I controlled the stage. Now I realize I never really understood it. She didn't send it, but she didn't delete it either. Instead, she locked the screen and sat down to begin writing something new. Wednesday, 3 days before the festival. The sun blazed over Pacific Bluffs, but behind the gym, the air felt strangely cold. Alex and her team were testing the LED light system. They had stayed up all night to finish the new stage frame, a backdrop of crashing silver waves, lights pulsing with the rhythm of the sea. Miss Addison walked over, offering a brief comment. Outstanding. Alex gave a faint smile. Praise still felt unfamiliar. But the moment didn't last past noon. 1:45 p.m. An internal email from the school board hit every inbox linked to the technical media and festival teams. Urgent notice. After re-evaluating the allocation of technical and stage coordination duties, the administration has decided to suspend all construction activities not aligned with the original approved designs. Stage setup will be reassigned to the school's traditional event coordination team under the supervision of Miss Alyssa Monroe, longtime advisor for the cheer squad and prior festival programs. All unofficial designs will not be used. The tech room went silent like a cold splash across the face. Liam read the message 3 times. Devon tapped the table sharply. Ms. Monroe. She's the one who signed off on Brit's plan last year, Sasha whispered. So, they're taking the festival back. Alex stared at the screen, her eyes stretched tight like piano wire. She didn't scream, didn't argue, but her hand under the table turned white from how tightly she clenched it. 4:10 p.m. Emergency meeting. Room 304, the group's quiet headquarters. Jules entered, dropping a printed copy of the email on the table. Not surprised, she said, but sooner than I expected. Devon exhaled. What do we do if they revoke our access to the control system? The whole stage resets. No lights, no sound, no visuals. Everything reverts to the safe format. Same as last year's show, Sasha added. Finale, led by Brit. Alex looked around the room where people had once come to her for silent strength. Now they looked to her again, not for direction, but for the choice she would make. 8:30 p.m. Brit's house. Ms. Monroe, the former faculty advisor, sat in the living room, laptop open on the coffee table. A festival doesn't need a social message. It just needs to be polished and orderly, she said. Since 2009, I've never let some idealistic art student rewrite the entire program structure. Brit listened quietly, said nothing. You can return, Ms. Monroe continued. I've already told the administration, if anyone can restructure this stage, it's you. Brit looked up. There was no joy in her eyes, just something close to pity. Ms. Monroe, may I ask something? Brit said slowly. If a program doesn't need a message, then what does it need to be meaningful? 9:00 p.m. Library. Alex sat across from Jules, Devon, Sasha, and Liam. We have 2 options, Jules said. 1, step back and let them rebuild it as before. 2, push back publicly. What do you mean by publicly? Liam asked. Upload Alex's design to the school forum. Use Devon's teaser video. Add a caption. Post on every student channel. Bypass the school. No waiting for approval. Everyone turned to Alex. She hadn't spoken yet. Then slowly, she removed her headphones. We don't need a caption, she said. Just the video. And 1 line, if this is Pacific Bluffs, then this is the new voice. That night, on the student forum, a 42-second video appeared, a sweeping shot of the new stage. No voice, no background music, only the shimmer of crashing ocean light. Silver waves expanding in silence, and 1 line glowing white at the end. This is what happens when silence becomes design. Thursday, 7:00 a.m. The Pacific Bluffs Student Forum had just hit its highest engagement of the year. A 42-second video, no narration, no captions, just a silver-lit stage with simulated ocean waves had been shared over 800 times overnight. The original post from the account PBS Student Vision carried only one line. This is what happens when silence becomes design. 7:05 a.m. In her kitchen, Ms. Addison was pouring coffee when her phone buzzed. A message from a colleague. "Have you seen the video? It's one of your students, right?" She tapped the link. Her calm eyes lit up. "Alex," she whispered, pride unhidden. 7:15 a.m. in the teacher's lounge. A cluster of faculty gathered around a large screen, looping the clip. Miss Monroe walked in and saw the buzz. A literature teacher asked, "Wait, students designed all of this? I heard it was Alex's group. Self-mixed audio, self-built visuals. No outside help." Miss Monroe scoffed. It wasn't approved. Not on the official script. Completely irresponsible. No one responded. The math teacher finally spoke. "Honestly, this makes me look forward to the festival more than any year before." Silence. Ms. Monroe left the room. 8:20 a.m. In the cafeteria, Tiffany sat beside Jules. All down the table, students were watching the same video. No music, no commentary, but every pair of eyes locked onto the flowing light. "She didn't need to say a word," Jules said. "She just built something too beautiful for anyone to ignore." Tiffany stared at her lunch tray, murmuring, "Maybe this is what Brit always wanted, but never knew how to reach." 9:00 a.m. Media Studies class. The teacher opened with the viral clip. This is an example of how visual media can say more than words. No narration, but everyone understands. She paused, scanning the room. "So, who made this silence?" Then, from the middle row, a voice spoke up, "Alex Ramirez." Alex turned. It was Devon. Not boasting, not dramatic, just a fact. The teacher smiled and nodded. "So that's who." 10:30 a.m. School atrium. Parents had arrived early for the planning meeting. But the conversation wasn't about logistics, it was about the video. A woman said, "I sent the link to my sister in New York. She's a professional set designer. Thought it was a demo reel from a firm." Another added, "I don't know who my kid's going to school with, but that student's got vision." A father said, "And courage. This place is used to routine. Sometimes the quiet ones see clearest." 1:00 p.m. Emergency staff. Meeting the principal, Ms. Monroe, and senior faculty. "Principal, we've got local media reaching out. No copyright issues, but if we don't manage this," Ms. Monroe interjected, "we should take it down. Hand the show back to experienced hands." "Principal, if we remove it, we'll be seen as stifling student creativity. Right now, every move is under a microscope." A history teacher spoke up, "Why not let the students run it? This is the first time I've seen the whole school talk about art, not gossip, but real awe." No one objected. 5:00 p.m. Student media room. Devon, Liam, and Sasha were tracking analytics. Over 15,000 views, Liam said. Local papers prepping an interview. Devon turned to Alex. "Are you ready to talk to the press?" She didn't answer right away. Then she looked into the camera, nodded. As long as they asked the right question. That night, in Brit's room, she played the video. Her eyes looked the same, but for the first time, they didn't try to control what they saw. Fingers hovered over her keyboard. She typed, "You turned the stage into something no one dares to undo. Congratulations." This time, she hit send. Friday, one day before the festival. 8:30 a.m. Principal's office. Alex sat in a dark brown leather chair, hands resting on her knees. Across from her were Principal Barnes, Ms. Addison, and someone she hadn't expected, Brit. No one spoke for the first few seconds. Then Principal Barnes said, "We've seen the clip. The whole school has. Even the press has. And we're in agreement this year. The stage will be yours." Ms. Addison nodded. "From design to coordination to closing ceremony, it's entirely in your hands." Alex lifted her gaze slightly. "What about the keynote speech?" That's when Brit finally spoke gently, without the usual sharpness. "I used to do that part, but this year, you should be the one in the spotlight." Alex turned to look at her. Brit's eyes didn't flinch. There was no arrogance, only the expression of someone who had reached the end of her own journey and was ready to step aside. 10:45 a.m., third floor seminar room. Devon was running a sound check. Liam was adjusting the lights. Sasha reviewed the background visuals. Jules walked in and handed Alex a printed page. "This is a draft for your speech, in case you need ideas." Alex skimmed a few lines. Youth creativity, visionary leadership, artistic freedom. She set the page down. "That's not it," she said. "If I speak, it can't be someone else's words." 2:00 p.m. Main stage rehearsal. For the first time, Alex stepped into the center of the stage, in daylight. No longer the girl behind the screen today, everyone was looking at her. Not with pity, with expectation. An older technician, a veteran of 10 years of school festivals, approached. "You're Alex, yes." He smiled. "How'd you build this stage?" "With everything we were once told not to say," Alex answered, her voice low but steady. He nodded, then stepped quietly backstage. She stood still for a moment, feeling the warmth of the lights, no longer a space reserved for the approved. 4:30 p.m. School courtyard. A group of students walked by, chatting animatedly. "Did you hear no traditional speech this year?" "Nope, Alex is speaking, but it's gonna be real." 7:00 p.m. Social media. A behind-the-scenes clip leaked. Alex was instructing Devon on how to sync the undercurrent lighting with the low bass notes. In the video, her soft-spoken line was captured clearly. "If the light won't come from the front, we'll make it rise from behind." The quote became a meme overnight. But to many, it was the first time they truly saw her. The girl once dismissed as that kid from Detroit had changed how people viewed the stage itself. 8:30 p.m. Alex's bedroom. She sat before the mirror. No fancy dress, no makeup. Just her old gray hoodie, faded jeans, and a silver necklace her mom gave her at 12. She looked into the mirror. Then down at the blank page before her, the speech draft. Not a single line written. She picked up the pen, then set it down. Exhaled. After a few quiet minutes, she took a fresh sheet of paper. And for the first time, she wrote, not for approval, not to fit in, but to understand where she stood and what she would say when the lights found her. 9:00 p.m. Her phone buzzed. A message from Brit. "When you step out there tomorrow, remember none of us can hold the stage forever. But if you say what's true, you won't need to." Alex read it, then replied, "I'm not holding, I'm opening." Saturday, 7:20 p.m. Pacific Bluffs High had transformed into another world. The front gates shimmered with silver-white LED strips shaped like rolling waves. The backfield, normally a place for sports events, had become an outdoor stage where light, sound, and digital visuals formed an expressive landscape. Around 600 students and parents sat on arched rows of plastic chairs in the media section, local journalists, young art bloggers, and even a producer from the State Student Broadcast Network. The festival would begin in 20 minutes. 8:03 p.m. All auxiliary lights shut off. Only a deep blue glow washed up from the stage into the night sky. A low, wordless melody began slow, deep, like a call from the ocean floor. The crowd fell silent. On the LED screen appeared one line, the year-end festival created by those once uninvited. Then the lights surged. Alex Ramirez stepped out, alone. No gown, no glitter, just a white shirt, black pants, and old silver Converse. She stood there and said nothing. 5 seconds, 10, 15. No MC, no intro music, only silence, and someone standing still inside it. Then Alex spoke, softly, slowly, but clearly. "Hi everyone, I'm Alex, and if you know me from the video last week, I'll say this first, I'm not great at speaking." A few quiet chuckles. Alex held her tone. "I came to this school as a stranger, no guide, no map. I used to think silence would keep me safe, until I realized silence can be a kind of voice too." She paused. Her eyes swept lightly across the stage. "What you're seeing tonight, the lights, the sound, the visuals, they're not here to show off technique. They're the things we couldn't say with words." She lowered her voice slightly, about how some students are always chosen, even when they don't try, about how some voices are always ignored, even when they matter, about what it takes to rebuild a stage, just to stand on it like everyone else. A wave of applause rose from the center section. Alex bowed her head slightly, then prepared to close. "I don't want to change the whole school. We just wanted space to express ourselves without permission, without approval. And if tonight you felt something during our presentation, then thank you not for agreeing, but for listening." She turned to leave, but then a voice called out, "I have a question." Everyone turned. It was Miss Monroe, rising from the teacher's row. "I've been here 10 years. I've seen plenty of students think they're special, turning everything into a personal show. If anyone with an idea just does what they want, what's left of a system?" The air stiffened. Parents exchanged glances. Some students hesitated mid-clap. Alex didn't flinch. She turned back to the mic. "Thank you." She looked Ms. Monroe straight in the eye. Her voice was steady. "You're right. If everyone changes everything just because they feel special, it becomes chaos. But if no one dares to change anything because they feel not enough, then we stay silent forever." One beat of silence. Then a student stood and clapped. Then another, and a row. The applause rolled in like a wave, quiet at first, then swelling to fill the stage, the stands, and the field beyond. Alex bowed her head. No big smile, no triumphant pose. She simply took one step back, leaving the stage. But this time, she wasn't stepping down as an outsider. She stepped down as someone who had just laid the foundation for a new kind of stage. 2 days after the festival night, the Pacific Bluffs campus still hadn't been fully cleaned up. Silver string lights hung across the hallways. The metallic paint on the stage floor remained untouched, but no one rushed to take it down, as if everyone wanted to hold on to the afterglow just a little longer, afraid that clearing it too quickly might erase what had happened, like a beautiful dream slipping away. In the faculty office, Ms. Addison was meeting with the school board. "I think it's time to change how we select the festival committee," she said. "Instead of choosing based on grades or club rosters, we should open applications. Let students pitch ideas, even those who've never been given a chance." Ms. Monroe didn't speak. She simply lowered her head and wrote something in her notebook. But this time, no one needed her approval, and she didn't object. That morning in media studies, the teacher gave students a prompt right about a moment when one person made an entire group look inward. Devon turned in first. The title read, "No stage is big enough for silence unless someone builds it." Jules submitted hers by email. In her conclusion was a sentence that made the teacher reread it. She didn't knock on the door. She just stood outside. until everyone opened it themselves. That afternoon, Alex walked alone along the beach behind the school. No one called her name. No one asked for pictures. But everyone who passed nodded a kind of nod you don't learn in textbooks, the kind meant for someone who was once overlooked and now quietly acknowledged without having to shout. She sat on a wooden bench, pulled out her headphones, and played an old track, the first mix she ever made back in Detroit. Back then, she never imagined this day would come, not because she didn't dream, but because this world rarely leaves room for the ones who speak softly. That evening, her phone lit up. A message from Brit. There's a group of freshmen who want to learn audio mixing. They reached out to me, but I think it should be you. Alex read it, then replied with one word. Okay. A week later, the local newspaper ran a feature on the Pacific Bluffs Festival. Pacific Bluffs proved that when the unheard are finally listened to, they can create something so beautiful, no one dares to dismiss it. Below it, a parent had commented, "I don't know that girl's name." But when my son asked, "Mum, why does everyone listen to someone who barely speaks?" I told him, because she didn't need to prove anything. She just did enough to make people look. That night, Alex came home and opened her laptop. In her inbox, a new email from a stage design professor at the State School of the Arts. I saw the video from your school's festival. If you're serious about pursuing this field, consider applying for next semester. We offer partial scholarships for students who don't follow the usual path, but who have a clear vision. P.S. Timed silence is a high form of language. Alex stared at the screen. Her hand hovered over the mouse, but instead of replying, she stepped out onto the balcony. The sky was turning dark. The Pacific Bluffs shoreline glimmered beneath the thin moonlight, and somewhere beyond the campus, a few of the stage lights were still glowing like echoes of a night when at last a quiet girl had been heard. Some people step onto the stage with the spotlight shining directly on them. But then, there are those like Alex Ramirez who build that light themselves and quietly stand behind it. This story isn't about fame. It's not about being a hero. And it's definitely not about an overwhelming victory. It's about a girl who was once left out of every game, simply because she didn't speak loudly, didn't know how to stand out, didn't seem to belong. And yet, her quiet persistence, her choice to speak at the right moment, made an entire system pause and listen in a way it never had before. So what's the lesson here? That you don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to become an approved version of someone else to be recognized. You just need to stay true to who you are, long enough, real enough, until the world simply can't ignore you anymore. My personal reflection, after telling this story, the world doesn't lack spotlights, but it does lack those brave enough to flip the switch for someone else. Alex didn't step up to defeat Brit or anyone else. She stepped up because if she didn't, the stage would forever belong to those already used to standing there. So if you've ever felt like you don't fit in, if you've ever been pushed aside for being quiet, if you've ever thought, my voice isn't loud enough to change anything, then remember this. It's not volume that changes the world. It's the meaning behind what you choose to say and when you choose to say it. If this story moved, you don't forget to follow and subscribe to Toch Story for more stories about quiet strength, silent justice, and ordinary people who are changing the world in the most extraordinary ways. Thank you for watching until the end. And if you're still staying silent, we believe you're preparing something important.